which is called Grisaille of Oshun. I was reading a lot. I was taking a class by Robert Farris Thompson at Yale, who kind of started pretty much a lot of African American history, started the field. Kira Jones, I think that's, no, Kelly Jones, who just received the MacArthur grant, was a student of his. But I looked a lot about Yoruba culture, and Oshun is a Yoruba goddess who is really nice, but if you make her mad, she don't play. And she's represented by water and blue. But I like the idea of having all these black women look at you. So essentially, every person in the painting, the woman who is sitting on the sofa represents Yoruba. The two magazines, one is Lena Horne, and the other one is, I can't remember right now, but Eartha Kitt. Yes, and then I also want to represent element of Egypt. That's the first domesticated cat in the world. It's an Egyptian cat. I was thinking about putting a book in there, but I got tired of painting books. So I wanted the cat to represent Hatshepsut, which was a queen, but she, through history, she represented herself as a man for obvious reasons during that time, to be seen as, you know, a powerful figure as well, right? So essentially, you have all these women looking out at you. And I did this piece, which is called Together. And I wanted to talk about love. I wanted to talk about, you know, all these human aspects that we experience, right? But I wanted it to seem like a moment that you kind of just happened in. You know, you just open the door and, oh, hey, what's up? And in the background, you see a window, because I like to have elements where somebody can get inside the piece, but also sometimes has the opportunity to settle and escape. So that's why you see the window. Then I saw Django. I saw Django and I was like, man, I like that guy, but I hate him. Tarantino. Oh man. So this piece was interesting because I went to the Yale Library and I did a lot of research on, you know, before he started that movie, I was interested in this guy. Jim Brown, which was, you know, he's a abolitionist. You know, he kind of blew up the Harper's Ferry. He had some slaves help him. He got murdered. He was going to kill his sons if they didn't help free the slaves. But the thing about Jim Brown is that there was another guy, and his name was Dangerfield Newby. This is part of where Quentin Tarantino got his story. That's what's called Django. Dangerfield Newby, short for Django. He had a couple of different sources, but I was like, if you want to tell Jim Brown's story, just tell it. Like, don't make the white savior story. Just tell, you know, don't do that. So, but the interesting thing about Dangerfield Newby is that he was a slave who got freed. He wanted to free his wife and his kids. He tried to pay for them, that didn't work. He tried to steal them away, that didn't work. So he joined Jim Brown's, I guess, party, but he was the first person to get killed at the raid on Harper's Ferry. He was the first, you know, person to get killed during that. And this essentially sparked the Civil War. One of the things that essentially sparked the Civil War. But in the movie, you see in that movie, there's dogs that's ripping up his body. I don't know if everybody's seen Django, and you don't have to. But there's dogs in there that are ripping up his body, and that's what happened to him. After they killed him, they had dogs essentially rip apart his body and eat him up. So for me, I was like, it would have been more interesting if you just wanted to talk about Django, Dangerfield Newby, to tell his life, than to have a story that ends with Jamie Foxx killing the master, but that doesn't end slavery. There's other masters out there, you know. So it's like, if you're going to have a fantasy, literally turn the whole history over instead of just partially do it. So that's why I was like, well, this is so great because everybody's talking about this stuff. but this is so horrible because you did a bad job, but a kind of good job. So I was really interested in text. As you can see, I've painted books, I've painted letters. You know, my grandfather is a sign painter, and he used to always tell me, like, it's so easy. And I don't understand how you do that. It's just, you know, you got to go and do all those lines, and I didn't get it. But I found that I've got a lot more interested in words and how powerful they can be. So I started looking at like Carrie Mae Weems' pieces, and really intrigued by what she did with text. So that's why this piece, you know, you can kind of see partial Django's face through the text of, I fucking hate Tarantino, I fucking love Tarantino. That's what that says right there. So then I did this piece, which you kind of can see, but you kind of can't see. But I wanted to do, you know, I guess I'm all over the place. I do painting, I do sculpture. We're probably gonna work on some videos soon. But the text that's on that piece of plexiglass says, I really do like cops. I think they do a great job at teaching me how to proactively police myself. And, you know, from my perspective, I've had a lot of interactions with police. I won't go through everything because it's really long, but I will tell you one story which kind of inspired this piece. I was at Yale, and when you're there, you know, there's two schools that kind of stay the latest. There's a School of Art and there's a School of Architecture. They stay till like 3 in the morning, and because the way I paint, I'm probably there till like 2 or something, you know, painting really late. People often saw me, you know, staying the latest. But I live like right around the corner in an apartment. So I'm coming out the back gate, and I'm walking home. I literally like live like 3 blocks from the studio. And I see a cop pull up, and I'm at the crossway at a red light. He pulls up, kind of slows down. I'm looking at him, I'm just walking. I'm like, I don't feel like it. I just not today, I don't feel like it. So, you know, I'm like, nothing's gonna happen. So he keeps going, and then I have to turn the corner, and that corner that I turn, he goes straight, and he stops. There's a light right there, but the light is green. So I'm like, why is this dude stopping? So I'm just walking, I'm like, I'm not even going to address this guy. I'm just going to walk right past. And I'm walking literally with my book bag on, just came out of the Yale School of Art, out of that gate, and he says, hey, come over here. And I'm like, what for? What? I'm going home, man. I'm going home. And he's like, I said, come over here. And that moment in my mind, I'm like, okay, I can like kind of just be an ass and just be really angry and tell this guy, no, I'm not. And I did that for a minute, but then I thought, okay, let me just get this over with so I can get home. So I walked up, and he was like, you know, what are you doing? What are you doing out here? And I'm like, well, I just came from the studios. You know, I just came from school, whatever. He's like, well, we got a complaint. And then he looked at my clothes, described my clothes. That there's some guy walking around here, blah, 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 blah. And let me see your ID. And I'm like, what for? I'm not under arrest. He's like, give me your ID. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So what I do is, when I pull out my ID, I also put my Yale ID out. And I give him my Yale ID on top of my state ID. I give him that. And then he's like, well, we got this complaint. He starts making up this whole stuff. And then he gets back to me on my way. And at this point, I'm on fire, and I'm so angry. I'm like just blazing. I'm like really upset. And, you know, I go home. And I've dealt with this, you know, several times, plenty of times. I deal with it less because I'm not driving anymore because I live in New York. But what was shocking to me is that I was literally on foot. He was in a car. I'm on foot walking on the sidewalk, doing nothing wrong, and he stops me. And there's a feeling that you get after something like that happens. There's a really uneasy burning that you get that's really shocking. And what's interesting about now is that that's a recurring thing that's happening over and over again. it's different dealing with it personally, right? Where I can kind of go in my space and just kind of, cry, do whatever, right? And deal with that. But what's happening today with the killings over and over and over and over again, that fire keeps igniting, like nonstop, over and over and over and over again. And I think we really have an issue of PTSD from this stuff. Like, I'm really serious. Like, really, really serious. Because it's non-stop. It's no longer, I deal with it in my own little world. Maybe talk to a couple guys it's happened to. But it's literally everybody that watches a video, especially black men and black women. That fire ignites over and over and over. And what does that do to a person? Like, what does that do to his conscience? But after that, I wanted to be free of that stuff. So I did this painting. And this piece is called Seriously. So I started to look, and seriously with a question mark, but it's spelled S-I-R-I-U-S-L-Y. And I'll tell you why. I started to look at different cultures in history that essentially got this knowledge from the gods. They said the gods came down and gave this knowledge. This is the constellation Canis Major, and it possesses the brightest star in the sky, which is Sirius. This is where the Dogon culture says God came down and gave them the knowledge of constellations that they had before Europe, before people that were charting the constellations. And they had information that, essentially if you did not, you weren't tracking the sky in a certain way, you shouldn't be able to track. But people are intelligent, they can do things. So what I want to talk about is this idea of knowledge coming from the sky. And I wanted to have a black body, a black male body in that sky. And you can see right here, he has his middle finger up. Because oftentimes I'm interacting with the viewer, right? I'm saying, like, he doesn't want to show you the other side of himself, right? So whoever's looking at this is kind of like the sky and the space of this inspiration. And we're talking about, Afrofuturism. And I wanted to be in the clouds. I wanted to think about Egypt. I wanted to think about things beyond this world, right? And then I did this piece. And this is called Drifting in the Sea of Stars. And this piece is really interesting because it's about the Virgo constellation. And different cultures have done different things with the Virgo constellation. It's essentially where, you have the Virgin and she has kind of like a sheath of grass, and it's the star, I think it's like Picus, is that star right there. But it also represents the birth of Christ, like that symbol was kind of Christ. And I took inspiration from the Velázquez painting of Christ on the cross. And essentially the body is in that same way with that same loincloth. But at the same time, this is the position of slaves, how their body had to be positioned on a slave ship. So drifting in the sea of stars is she essentially could be floating on water, and that's a reflection of the sky, or she can be kind of like a crucifix in that way. But I wanted to talk about her being like the mother of humans. Right? So then I came back down to the world after being in the stars, moving to New York, and the struggle in New York, and rent is crazy high. And this piece is called I Picked the World Up and It Dropped Me on My Fucking Head. So now I'm back to Earth, and I just point a lot of the killings were happening, and I just felt really vulnerable. But I always want to have a little element of hope, because I can't believe that things can be too bad that hopes and dreams can't, kind of generate something positive, right? So back here you see a black father and a son flying a kite. When I was little, me and my dad used to go to the park and fly kites all the time. So then, around this time, this is after grad school, so graduated from Yale, and I'm in New York, and I decide in my place that I have, which is kind of small, that I wanted to do something. Didn't know what to do, but I wanted to do something. So I started working on paper because it's transportable, it's easier. So I started this series of women of color, friends that I knew, And the thing about this series is